She sprang forth from his head completely armed. Her favorite bird was the owl, and the plant sacred to her, the olive. Byron, in Childe Harold, alludes to the birth of Minerva thus: "Can tyrants but by tyrants conquered be? And freedom find no champion and no child, such as Columbia saw arise when she sprang forth a Pallas, armed and undefiled? Or must such minds be nourished in the wild, deep in the unpruned forest, midst the roar of cataracts, where nursing nature smiled on infant Washington? Has earth no more such seeds within her breast, or Europe no such shore?" Mercury, Hermes, was the son of Jupiter and Maia. He presided over commerce, wrestling, and other gymnastic exercises, even over thieving and everything, in short, which required skill and dexterity. He was the messenger of Jupiter, and wore a winged cap and winged shoes. He bore in his hand a rod entwined with two serpents, called the caduceus. Mercury is said to have invented the lyre. He found one day a tortoise, of which he took the shell, made holes in the opposite edges of it, and drew cords of linen through them, and the instrument was complete. The cords were 9, in honor of the 9 muses. Mercury gave the lyre to Apollo and received from him in exchange the caduceus. From this origin of the instrument, the word shell is often used as synonymous with lyre, and figuratively for music and poetry. Thus, Gray, in his ode on the progress of poesy, says, "O sovereign of the willing soul, parent of sweet and sullen breathing airs, enchanting shell, the sullen cares and frantic passions hear thy soft control." Ceres, Demeter, was the daughter of Saturn and Rhea. She had a daughter named Proserpine, Persephone, who became the wife of Pluto and queen of the realms of the dead. Ceres presided over agriculture. Bacchus, Dionysus, the god of wine, was the son of Jupiter and Semele. He represents not only the intoxicating power of wine, but its social and beneficent influences likewise, so that he is viewed as the promoter of civilization and a lawgiver and a lover of peace. The Muses were the daughters of Jupiter and Mnemosyne, memory. They presided over song and prompted the memory. They were 9 in number, to each of whom was assigned the precedence over some particular department of literature, art, or science. Calliope was the muse of epic poetry, Clio of history, Euterpe of lyric poetry, Melpomene of tragedy, Terpsichore of choral dance and song, Erato of love poetry, Polyhymnia of sacred poetry, Urania of astronomy, Thalia of comedy. The Graces were goddesses presiding over the banquet, the dance, and all social enjoyments and elegant arts. They were 3 in number. Their names were Euphrosyne, Aglaia, and Thalia. Spencer describes the office of the Graces thus: "These 3 on men all gracious gifts bestow, which deck the body or adorn the mind, to make them lovely or well-favored show, as comely carriage, entertainment kind, sweet semblance, friendly offices that bind, and all the compliments of courtesy. They teach us how to each degree and kind. We should ourselves demean to low to high, to friends to foes, which which skill men call civility. The Fates were also three, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. Their office was to spin the thread of human destiny. And they were armed with shears, with which they cut it off when they pleased. They were the daughters of Themis, Law, who sits by Jove on his throne to give him counsel. The Erinyes, or Furies, were three goddesses who punished, by their secret stings, the crimes of those who escaped or defied public justice. The heads of the Furies were wreathed in serpents, and their whole appearance was terrific and appalling. Their names were Alecto, Tisiphone, and Megara. They were also called Eumenides. Nemesis was also an avenging goddess. She represents the righteous anger of the gods, particularly towards the proud and insolent. Pan was the god of flocks and shepherds. His favorite residence was in Arcadia. The Satyrs were deities of the woods and fields. They were conceived to be covered with bristly hair, their heads decorated with short, sprouting horns, and their feet like goats' feet. Momus was the god of laughter, and Plutus the god of wealth. The preceding are Grecian divinities, though received also by the Romans. Those which follow are peculiar to Roman mythology. Saturn was an ancient Italian deity. It was attempted to identify him with the Grecian god Kronos, and fabled that after his dethronement by Jupiter he fled to Italy, where he reigned during what was called the Golden Age. In memory of his beneficent dominion, the Feast of Saturnalia was held every year in the winter season. Then all public business was suspended, declarations of war and criminal executions were postponed, friends made presents to one another, and the slaves were indulged with great liberties. A feast was given them at which they sat at table while their master served them, to show the natural equality of men, and that all things belonged equally to all in the reign of Saturn. Faunus. There was also a goddess Fauna, or Bonadia. The grandson of Saturn was worshipped as the god of fields and shepherds, and also as a prophetic god. His name in the plural, Fauns, expressed a class of gamesome deities, like the satyrs of the Greeks. Quirinus was a war god, said to be no other than Romulus, the founder of Rome, exalted after his death to a place among the gods. Bellona, a war goddess. Terminus, the god of landmarks. His statue was a rood, stone or post, set in the ground to mark the boundaries of fields. Pallas, the goddess presiding over cattle and pastures. Pomona presided over fruit trees. Flora, the goddess of flowers. Lucina, the goddess of childbirth. Vesta, the Hestia of the Greeks, was a deity presiding over the public and private hearth. A sacred fire tended by 6 virgin priestesses, called Vestals, flamed in her temple. As the safety of the city was held to be connected with its conservation, the neglect of the virgins, if they let it go out, was severely punished, and the fire was rekindled from the rays of the sun. Liber is the Latin name of Bacchus, and Mulciber of Vulcan. Janus was the porter of heaven. He opens the year, the first month being named after him. He is the guardian deity of gates, on which account he is commonly represented with 2 heads, because every door looks 2 ways. His temples at Rome were numerous. In wartime, the gates of the principal one were always open. In peace, they were closed, but they were shut only once between the reign of Numa and that of Augustus. The Penates were the gods who were supposed to attend to the welfare and prosperity of the family. Their name is derived from Penus, the pantry which was sacred to them. Every master of a family was the priest of the Penates of his own house. The Lares or Lars were also household gods, but differed from the Penates in being regarded as the deified spirits of mortals. The family Lars were held to be the souls of the ancestors who watched over and protected their descendants. The words lemur and larva more nearly correspond to our word ghost. The Romans believed that every man had his genius, and every woman her Juno. That is, a spirit who had given them being and was regarded as their protector through life. On their birthdays, men made offerings to their genius, women to their Juno. A modern poet thus alludes to some of the Roman gods. Pomona loves the orchard, and Liber loves the vine, and Pallas loves the straw-built shed, warm with the breath of kine. And Venus loves the whisper of plighted youth and maid, in April's ivory moonlight beneath the chestnut shade. Macaulay, prophecy of Capys. NB. It is to be observed that in proper names the final E and ES are to be sounded. Thus, Sibylle and Penates are words of 3 syllables. Thus, Sibylle, and Penates are words of 3 syllables. But Proserpine and Thebes are exceptions, and to be pronounced as English words. In the index at the close of the volume, we shall mark the accented syllable in all words which appear to require it.